All right, I think we're live. Good morning and welcome back to the Money Advantage podcast. So, I'm Rachel Marshall. You have heard my voice lots of times, and Bruce Wayner, you've heard his voice lots of times. Say hey, Bruce.
Hello, everyone.
We have three other faces that you have rarely seen, one never. So, I'm so excited to be having a lot more of our team joining you, joining me, joining us to talk to you today because we have a really cool thing to talk to you about. It's a party. We're having a party today. We are on episode number 400 of the Money Advantage podcast. So, if you've been with us for like a month or 2 weeks and you've been listening for a short period of time, that's probably really surprising to you. And maybe if you've been podcasting every single day for the last 100 years, 400 might seem really tiny to you, but for us, it's a giant number, and we're going to celebrate that. So, thank you guys so much for joining me. This is a lot more of the faces on our team. I'm going to introduce you in a minute, but thank you all for being here.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having us, Rachel.
So
Absolutely.
Rachel, Rachel, we should tell everybody that there's other people on the team, but there's a lot of babies involved right now.
Oh, yes. Okay, so we have more people on the team. Specifically, you've probably seen Joe DeFazio. He talked about the airplane example. He had some amazing analogies that he shared with how life insurance can be like an airplane. He's been on the podcast before. He has just had well, in their family, they fairly recently have had a baby, and so he's not able to join today. So unfortunately, he's not here. We also have Riley Smith, and I think he's been on the show. It's been a long time though,
But
where we told his story. I think it's been several years, right,
He's
Bruce?
been on more than once. Multiple
Oh,
times.
okay.
yeah, he's been on more than once, but it's been a while.
Okay. So he just had a baby. Well, his wife did, but in their family, they have just had a baby, and I think maybe a week and 3 days old. I'm pretty sure Friday the 18th she was born. So brand new. He's got to dedicate some time to that. So we are not having the whole team here today, but we've got a lot of people. So let me make a few introductions. This is Lucas,
Nice to be here.
my awesome husband. He's usually behind the scenes, but he's here today. Becca, who you've seen on the show before, author of Beaver Bankers. Am I saying it right?
That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, which I love. And so she's working on our team and has been for quite some time. And Jeff Jesse, we're so excited to have you today. Jeff has been on the team for quite a while. I'm usually also behind the scenes doing a lot of work with our clients. Amazing, just brilliant mind and amazing communicator. And so I'm just really excited to be able to talk with you guys all about what's happened in the last 400 episodes and really what we've learned about being a team, about building a business, about serving people with infinite banking, about what we've learned about infinite banking ourselves, and really just be able to share some value with you guys. You can ask any questions. Obviously, 400 episodes, that's a long time, Bruce. I probably should have gotten the date that we began. Do you have it offhand? If
Hey,
not, I'm going to go.
it was a couple like May. I called Bruce. We were camping actually, and I said, "Hey Bruce, you want to start a podcast?" And that began the Money Advantage. And then we
Well,
evolved
there was a
since
little
then.
bit of backstory behind that. So Bruce was with an amazing team doing amazing stuff. They were trying to improve the entire financial services industry. We went to a conference that he and his team put on, and Bruce, I'm sure you remember this. Maybe it's not rare for people when they're talking to you to cry, but it was rare for me to cry before a financial professional. I really connected with you. I just felt like you not only knew what you were talking about, but you were somebody that just had such a wealth of wisdom and knowledge in the infinite banking space. And I'd been doing a lot of work making videos and teaching people about money. Lucas and I had been in business. We said, really, we need to have a bigger team and we need to have somebody who's had more experience, more life wisdom than us. Now, Bruce, my hair color would probably say that I have more wisdom than you because I think I have more gray hair than you. So I don't know. I don't know. We both have this.
You just can't see my gray hair because it's not there anymore.
It's funny if you go back in videos from like the early days of the Money Advantage. I was like, wait a minute, Bruce's hair has changed.
Rachel had dark hair. Bruce had more hair.
Yeah.
So, we all change a little bit.
That's 400 episodes, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think the podcast actually started airing like October, November of 2017, but we started recording and getting the website stood up like June, July, like
Yep.
around that May, June, July time of 2017. So yeah, it's been 8 years.
I'd like
Yeah.
to I'd like to just point out that and I don't know if it was a collaborative thing, but it seemed to me that Lucas had the vision that podcasting, I mean, it wasn't like just starting, but that it was going to really take off and the YouTube situation was really going to take off. And so he deserves a lot of credit for that, I think. And you know, I did it. I said yes to doing it, and I don't know if you recall, I said yes, but I don't want to prepare a lot
Yep.
because that's not my style. I just want to talk off the cuff on the subject. Now, I say I don't want to prepare a lot, but I do some outlines and researching before that, before we actually get on to the podcast. But we want it to be really just feel like you have a friend that you're asking questions to, and that friend is going to just give it to you the way it really is. And so one of the things that I developed over the years is, you know, I tell people that when you're listening to podcasts, when you're watching social media, when you're looking at YouTube videos, you really got to be careful who you're listening to because you just might believe them. And according even ourselves, you know, we've challenged people that listen to the podcast to not just take what we say as gospel, but to actually do additional research. Um, Research is nuanced, though, because you know you try to pick a person that you believe is an expert, and those people um, hopefully have competence. But just because you have competence doesn't mean you're always correct. It's because you have to continually looking and searching for the truth. And I hope that's what we try to do at all times. The second thing is that you're also going to run into people that have low character. So they might have high competence, but they have low character. And those people then are not constantly searching for the truth. They're just searching for the next sale. And so those are things that you're constantly should be evaluating when you're looking for or listening and looking at people on social media, podcasts, YouTube's, you know, so on and so forth. And that's what we're really trying to do every week when we come and talk about different topics is try to have the highest level of competence with the highest level of character. And I'm not saying we achieve that all the time, but we're striving for that.
Mm. Bruce, I love that you bring that up because I think really what it comes down to is that we have a commitment to excellence on the back end that you probably don't hear about all the time if you're a listener or if you're working with our team. We're not going to tell you, hey, we have a commitment to excellence and a standard of excellence in our company, but we hope that you feel that. We hope that you feel that we're going to make sure that we're accurate in the things that we say. We're going to not have a rival syndrome ourselves and say, hey, we know everything and we've figured out everything. We have all the answers. We're continually learning. We're trying to always stay humble to realize that we're continuing to grow as well, which is the position everyone has to be in if you're going to uh, make any good moves in your financial life or any changes. And then, Bruce, I just love that you just even brought it back to this whole idea. Like Lucas had this vision to say, hey, podcasting is really what we need to be able to do because we need to provide a mechanism, a tool for providing that education to somebody so that they can start gathering the research, putting the pieces together, learning what they need to learn, hearing from us. We're just talking about the things that are important to us and the things that are really important for somebody to know and learn. And it's just been really exciting how that's turned into people reaching out to our team, wanting access to financial services, wanting to get our help with infinite banking, wanting our help with comprehensive financial planning, and now even the legacy planning work that we're doing. It's been really fun.
So I think that the next thing I'd like to go to is Jeff's story because I think Jeff's story is a great thing to celebrate the 400th episode because I knew Nelson pretty intimately. I mean, I considered him a mentor of mine. It's weird. he died in 2019, and I did finally remove his cell phone number from my cell phone a couple of months ago. So I had his cell phone number. It was always great to talk to him when I could, but Jeff actually was exposed to the becoming your own banker much earlier than I was. And
I didn't even know that.
he has one of the original manuscripts. And Jeff, I probably should have, I don't know if you have it with you, but before I did this, I probably should have asked you. There you go.
What? That's awesome.
So this is part of this, I think, celebration today, is if Jeff could just tell the story and what intrigued you about it. And then Jeff, the other thing is, your willingness to reach out to us and just tell a little bit about that story.
So I had a background in working in computers, almost went to work for Northwestern Mutual, went right out of school, and ended up falling into a computer job that I worked at for 13 years with a company that went through an IPO and all kinds of fun stuff. And when I got out of that, I was like, I always thought money was my brain works in games. I think everything is a game. What are the rules of the game? How do you play the game? How do you win the game? That's just how my brain works. And I figured money's the biggest game, so let's go try to figure out how to play the game of money. And had been interested in financial planning, had a financial planner, had done everything right according to traditional financial planning metrics, rang every bell. And I would say, like how Paul would say that he was a Pharisee of Pharisees, I would say that I was a modern financial planning Pharisee of Pharisees in terms of what I was doing according to what the rules were. And didn't work out well for me at all for a lot of reasons. Went through 2000, had lots of fun experiences in 2000, had a financial planner who disappeared on me because he didn't want to talk to me about what had happened to my portfolio. Had all kinds of experiences that I think primed me for when I started in the business. And so the first license that I got was my plan was that I was going to go become a regular financial planner, but I was going to go do it better. So I was going to go do all the things that I had seen other people do, but I was going to do it better. And my plan was I would go get all of the designations and go get all my securities licensing and everything else. And the first license that I got was my life insurance license. And I had no intention of doing anything with life insurance. I had purchased a life insurance policy when I was 25 and let that policy go because I was like, why do I have this? I don't really need this. It doesn't fit with my goals. It was just this thing that I had bought that I didn't understand. And so like I had rang all kinds of bells. And I got, when I got my life insurance license, I was like, I'm never going to sell life insurance, but I know I'm going to need this license to be a financial planner. And I thought I might just look into something about life insurance. So I started looking on the internet and I just searched, life insurance. And this ad came up, and probably just by the grace of God, this ad happens to come up for this book called Becoming Your Own Banker.
That's wild.
And so this was in December of 2002. And I look at it, it was $20 back then. So like the price hasn't changed. And I bought it. And I got it in a couple of days, and I read it 2 times the first night that I got it. And the first time that I read it, this is just how it was for me. And I'm not saying it should be this way for anybody, but how it was for me with the experiences that I'd had and all the different, things that I had been through, it just connected almost every financial dot that there was for me. From an economics perspective, from a foundational money perspective, from what's actually important, from the theological components to it, like all of those things. And then I read it again, and my first thought was, every single person is a banker. It's not, and I think that's one of the things that gets lost in this is it's called the infinite banking concept, right? It's not called the infinite life insurance concept. And it's about banking. It's about how money actually moves through people's lives. And that is affecting every single dollar in every single person's life. And we get so focused on life insurance that I think we miss the, we miss the forest for the trees. We're looking at all of these details about life insurance, but we're not actually addressing the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, I just saw it clear as day. I called up Nelson the next day and I said, does anybody, I lived in near Seattle at the time, and I said, does anybody in Seattle know anything about this? And Nelson's response was, I don't know. I can just tell you some people who bought a lot of my books. That's kind of where it was at that point. And so I could talk about all kinds of fun stories as it relates to that, but I'm not going to. But that was kind of where it was when I got started. And that's been the beginning of this journey for me, is just, since then I think I probably talk about two things. I'm like a two-trick pony. I talk about God and theology, and I talk about infinite banking. And those are pretty much it. And I think Becca can probably attest to that that's pretty much true. I love my family. I love talking about them and doing stuff with them and all the rest of those fun things. But in terms of the things I'm really interested in, those are really the two things.
Mm. Jeff, that's fascinating. I did not know that was the backstory. And then Bruce had a second part of that question, which was what made you reach out to our team and join our team?
So the journey has been an interesting one, because I've had I don't know if half the time I think I'm crazy, because again, from the beginning, I have always thought that it's about banking. It's not about life insurance. And if you actually understand, the money map on the Money Advantage website, right? It starts with mindset, money mindset, right? It's how you think. To me, it's problem, process, product. If you don't understand the problem, then why are you purchasing a product? And if you're purchasing a product, all that is doing is adding complexity to your life. It is not making your life better. It's making your life more complex, because all you've done is add another thing that you have to go keep track of. And if you don't actually understand the problem that you're trying to solve, then that you're just making your life, in my opinion, you're just making your life worse.
Mm-hmm.
And time is finite, and we need to use it wisely. And yet what we have been trained to do systematically from financial services and lots of other places is to one more thing will be the thing that makes it better. And if six things are good, seven must be better, as opposed to understanding what we're solving for and solving actual problems that actually make a difference to us. And I reached out to you guys. The long journey had been that's kind of how I see things. Like life insurance is a logical consequence of understanding what the problem is. So I don't feel like I sell anything. I explain to people how money works. If they want to do something about how money is working in their life, the logical consequence is we will look and say, what are the various ways that they can go solve that problem? And life insurance is the most obvious way to actually solve the problems of what's happening to people's money.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a different approach than most people have. So my journey has been somewhat lonely, and I've done most work all by myself, and kind of limited the number of people that I talk to, and have reached out to different people over time, and had some nice conversations with people and met some really great people, but just never found a place where I fit. And so had reached out to Lucas to talk about some actually kind of in a way other things. And we started talking about my background, and he started asking a little bit about me, and he said, you need to talk to Bruce. And I'm like, all right, I'll talk to Bruce. And and I talk to Bruce, and I get to know Bruce, and I love Bruce. And then just as I got to see deeper and deeper what you guys were doing, and you got to see, a little bit about who I was, it was just, I think of myself as my biggest skill is I'm fuel on a fire. Rachel and I, you and I talked about this the other day. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to write a book. There's lots of things I'm never going to do. I'm never going to host a podcast. My own website is a blank white page. It has been for years, and it will continue to be as far as it's up to me. We were talking earlier about like my picture's not on the website. I don't do social media. I'm not saying I'm right in any way, shape, or form. That's just how my brain works. And the fuel on the fire thing is like, I saw what you guys are doing and the way you're doing it. Um, I just feel like I want to be fuel on the fire of what Money Advantage is doing. I want to help Bruce do more of what he's doing for clients the way he does it. I want to help Becca do things, the things that she does. I want legacy planning to blow up. And so, that's just kind of just things just sort of fit together. And in God's providence and timing, here we are.
Jeff, I love your just humility in sharing that. And I think what's really interesting, and I know you and I have talked about this, Lucas and I have talked about this, Bruce and I have talked about this, the right people, I mean, Dan Sullivan would say who, not how. And I think
Mhm.
a lot of times people can figure out or try to figure out what is the next strategy, what is the next strategic business move. And instead of just figuring out the how to do something or belaboring the incremental steps to be able to accomplish your goals, we've been really amazing at assembling good who's. People who we love working with, who are going to do the right thing, who are going to communicate effectively, who love God, who love clients, who love helping people really be able to make empowered financial decisions rather than just pushing a product or rather than just telling them, here's the answer to a problem you don't even know you have yet. And Jeff, you've just been a huge, huge piece. We've all been huge pieces of the who, not necessarily the how. And when the right team is together, amazing things happen. And it's really cool to see how we've grown as a result of having this team working together on problems. So,
I think the team part's a huge thing because, like you're making the decisions that are being talked about here are multi-decade decisions with real implications. And do you have a single point of failure in terms of one person who you're running everything through? We're all limited in our abilities. I'm not a master of, 20 things that Bruce is infinitely better than I am. And I would say that's the same for everybody. But if you have a team of people working together and they're on the same page and they have the client's interest first. That's one of the things from an ethos perspective. I don't think anybody here is selling anything. We are showing people what's going on. And if people want to go solve those problems, if they feel that they want to do something about it, we help them do it.
yeah.
And there's more than enough business to go around for everybody, and God's abundance overflows, right? We just need to go help people direct it well in a hostile world.
Yeah,
The world is hostile to individual financial success.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely. Telling you all the wrong
I've got
things.
I've got
Yeah.
experience that I don't want people to, I don't want them to go through what I did. I want them to learn from things that I did, benefit from the challenges that I've had. And I think everybody else here, does too.
hmm I would hope that somebody listening would know us as truth tellers. I think there's a lot of, I mean, you mentioned the hostile financial world. I think there's just so many messages that say, get a higher rate of return, everything's going to be okay. Pay off all your debt and everything's going to be okay. Hire the financial planner that a successful person is using and everything's going to be okay. You name it. I think there's so many messages in our financial world because finance tends to feel complex. It tends to feel overwhelming. It tends to feel like there's 1,000 things that you need to know and different levers. And it's this like really complex system that you're not smart enough to understand. I mean, that's like the messaging of the world. That's not what we believe. But the messaging is you need somebody smarter than you to go figure this out, to tell you what to do, who will absolutely have your best interest at heart and care more about your money than you do, and is going to lead you to this peace and safety and freedom that we all desire monetarily. And it just doesn't work that way. And I think the way that anybody can really accomplish that financial freedom is by taking control of your finances, understanding them, but understanding the real problem, which is where was money flowing and how do you have as much control as possible, which is a totally different conversation than go get a better financial product. Becca, I would love to just kind of pivot to you for a second to just hear some of your thoughts. You are just a wealth of knowledge, an amazing communicator at helping people understand what the problem is and being able to position it in a way that they can understand and take action on. And I think that's just one of the most beautiful things that somebody needs to be able to have so that they can step into having that financial control. And so I would just love to hear, maybe it has something to do with what I just said, or maybe nothing at all, but what would you say is maybe your top lesson, your top learning, the top like piece of wisdom that you would share just as a result of being in this space, being in the financial world, being in the infinite banking space, working on a team, all of that, kind of what has kind of boiled down or distilled as something that is just standing out as really important to you?
Wow. Like, so go anywhere is what you're saying.
Absolutely. Whatever you want to say.
Well, I was thinking back to my introduction. Since this is the 400th episode, I certainly haven't been around for all 400. I think I found the money advantage around 2020, 2021, somewhere in there. As really somebody who had been turned on to this idea and really felt like, man, there's something here, but I don't understand it all. And I really, really want to. I've heard this saying that some people just want to know what time it is and some people want to know how the watch works. Like, I was one of those people. I want to know how the watch works. Like, what are all the things and all the components and life insurance this and riders that and all these things. And so I think when I found the money advantage, I found kind of what you guys have been talking about, of somebody who I felt was trying to actually teach me. They weren't trying to sell me anything. They were trying to explain how these things worked. And so that was really, really valuable for me as a budding life insurance agent who had no idea what I was doing. No, I didn't know what I didn't know. Bruce talks about, different levels of competence, where you start out with unconscious incompetence. You don't even know what you don't know, right? And then you go to conscious incompetence, where you know what you don't know, and then help me say this, Bruce. Conscious competence.
Consciously competent.
Yeah, consciously competent. That's it. Where you know, but you kind of have to think about it, and eventually this unconscious competence, where it's just a part of who you are. And I think that's the goal for everyone. And I think in that journey, I'm not saying I've arrived by any means, but the people that I've learned from and the people that I've been around have been such a huge blessing and impact of really simplifying things down. I thought I needed to make it more complicated, and I thought I needed to understand all the ins and outs and X and O's. And I think as an agent, I do. So let me say that. I think that's important for agents to know how those things work. But just as a participant, a small P practitioner in infinite banking, of growing our own family banking system and using that more and more, I think it's gotten more simple. It's gotten more simple. It's just been, where's your money flowing, like you were just saying, and do you control where it flows, or is it flowing away for you for someone else's benefit? And I almost think about like the banking system that we use, the money that comes in and goes out, and the movement of money in our lives. By default, the default is that is going to benefit someone else. That is going to benefit a banking system, that's going to benefit a third party. And it's almost like a background operating system. Nelson talks about the seen and the unseen, right? We see the bills come in, we see the payments go out, but what's running in the background? Who's capturing this economic energy from your money moving around? And the default is the banking system. Nelson talks about the pool of money, and it goes out and it comes back, and it all ends up back in the banking system. There's one pool. So by strategically changing that on purpose, by utilizing this tool, this product of life insurance, we can shift that over time so that what's running in the background is starting to benefit us and our family instead of someone else. And that might seem insignificant. And people want to know, well, what's the numbers? What's the rate of return? What's all these things? And it's like, well, it's hard to say over a lifetime what just changing that one thing, how big of an impact that can have. It's hard to say how much you're going to actually use it. It's hard to say how you're going to pay it back if you're going to be an honest banker, if you're going to respect your own capital the way you respect somebody else's. But with a good team, with good training and good coaching, and you learn how to do those things, you realize, holy cow, I can just do the same activities I was doing before, but have that background working for me and my family instead of for someone else. And it'll take a little bit to get started, but it's like any other good habit, diet, exercise, anything. So when it becomes a habit, when that becomes the hub of your financial activity, instead of your checking account or instead of whatever it was before, I mean, we're still going to use those things, but on our terms. When that becomes kind of the central thing, it's like, wow, this just got really simple. I put money in, we borrow against it, we use money, we put money back in. We talk sometimes about we capitalize, we deploy, we recapitalize. It's really that simple. And by doing that over a lifetime, over a long period of time, man, it makes a huge difference in where you get down the road. And I think if I could say one other thing, I think I was always in the past maybe trying to compare this to something that I knew, and I was always making wrong comparisons. Well, how does this compare to my Roth IRA, or how does this compare to a CD at the bank, and all those are valid things. But I think if you're really going to compare, you need to compare to how does this compare to how I'm currently financing the things of life, how I buy cars, how I pay for vacations, how I invest, whatever those things are. And you're probably either borrowing money from someone or you're paying cash. That's about the only two things you can do, right? And so, as Nelson would famously say, we're either paying interest to someone else or we're giving up interest we could have earned when we pay cash. If we could harness that to work for us for the rest of our lives, I mean, it's unbelievable what that can do over a lifetime. So I don't know if I even answered your
That's
question,
awesome.
but that's
No,
just where
that
my
is
brain went.
you did. You did, because I think, Becca, it is way simpler than we make it. I think it can we can have the illusion of, more complex is better. You can overcomplicate, which means it's you're smarter if it's really complicated, and it's more exclusive if it's really complex. And I think what you're really getting down to is that the simple things are the things we can actually do. The simple things are things we can actually understand. And I mean, Becca, there's no better way in the entire world to say this, that if you can communicate the concept to a child, then you can actually understand it. And you did that. You communicated the concept in a children's book called Beaver Bankers. This idea of storing capital, like rediverting the river like beavers do, damming up the river to create this reservoir that created an entire ecosystem for the entire beaver family to flourish. And maybe you probably would add way more onto that, but you simplified it because it is simple. And I'm going to save my main learning for a little bit later, because I'm going to ask Lucas and Bruce first. But I love that this really comes down to the right team and really understanding super simple concepts of where your money is, where it's flowing, how is it being controlled, and really who's controlling it. And if you can be the person in control, that's really all that matters.
Can I add one thing really quick?
Absolutely.
I think the whole idea of people, when Becca was talking about people paying cash, I think it's been helpful to frame that in terms of you're always borrowing. The only question is, who are you borrowing from? You are always borrowing. You borrow every single dollar that ever goes through your life from someone. If you pay cash, you borrowed from yourself. But you're always borrowing. And so when you start to understand, that goes back to the banking equation. If you actually start to understand what's happening, then you start to realize this is happening to every single dollar. It's not just how do I save my 10% or whatever and put it into an account that I can't touch and hope that it grows and hope I'm alive and hope that everything's going to be okay. I'm borrowing every single dollar that flows through my life. And in that borrowing, there is financial power, and that power is being captured by someone. And if I don't know how it's being captured by me, it's being captured by someone else. And we talk about simplicity, that right there, how long did that take to talk about?
Very short. Jeff, what is so interesting about that is that many people say, I don't want to be in debt, which is the reason why they don't want to get a loan, but they don't understand what you exactly just said. If you are paying cash, you're borrowing from yourself. You're borrowing from all the work that you did to store up that capital in the first place and what that could earn for you if you didn't deplete it,
Yep.
suck it out of the account, drain the account. And because we borrow from ourselves and pay cash, our culture does not understand the power of compound interest. Because we borrow from ourselves, we take out that money. And instead, if we could keep that money in our control and keep it growing and truly have compound interest working in our favor, not potential returns, not potential increases and potential losses and interruption and taking money out, that's not compound interest. But if we kept money working for us and we could travel up that compound interest curve, we are in a completely different and better financial position because we kept hold of that capital.
I'll give you two more really quick.
Yeah.
We celebrate the whole idea of being quote unquote debt free, but we mischaracterize it. And so we celebrate it to everyone's detriment, in my opinion.
Yes.
And secondly, if we actually understand the idea of borrowing from ourselves, the second step to that is we are either borrowing from ourselves or we are stealing from ourselves inadvertently.
Go ahead, Becca.
Well, that just made me think, I come from a Dave Ramsey background, and sometimes Dave dies hard in my head when we talk about having policy loans and loan balances. And Jeff and Joe kind of make fun of me. We've coined a new phrase that I'm a zero lover. Like, I just want to be to zero. I want all the loans paid off, right, and all those kinds of things. Which is not a bad goal, but I've had to reframe how I see a policy loan balance that we're actively having a plan to repay, right? It's just always been burned in my head that this is debt and this is bad. But this is not the same. This is debt that we control, that we are the ones that are calling the shots on. And I've stopped seeing it as a debt that I have to repay. And I've started seeing it as, you know what, the way I used to do this is cash that would have been gone forever. Like, if we would have done things the way we had previously been doing them, paying cash for everything, we would have taken this policy loan that I have now, this loan balance, and it would have just been gone. And as it is, I have the opportunity to repay that and replace it to exactly the growth that it would have had we never used it. And to me, that's really, really powerful to see it that way. But this isn't just a debt, but this is an opportunity to get back on that curve, like you talked about, where we would have been otherwise. Whereas in the past, it would have just been gone and we'd been starting over from zero.
Last one, and then I'll shut up. I promise.
No, this is
Hold on,
awesome.
Jeff, hold on 1 second. I wanted to say something that you said. So a nuance on that. I would take it further and say it's not even a debt; it's a liability. Because a debt would mean that you were in a position where you don't have the assets to liquidate the liability.
True.
But you do, and so it's already covered. Therefore, it's not a debt; it's just a liability. A debt is a position in which you owe more than you have the ability to repay. You're not in debt; you just have a liability.
True.
And it's not a liability. No one's going to come knock down your door. No one's going to come take money out of your banking account. That'll never happen to you. At the end of the day, it's covered in the worst case scenario. So you only have a liability. So it's a nuance, but a lot of people only use the word debt they use the word debt for liabilities a lot. And that's okay, but it's helpful for people to understand that there's the difference between a debt that you cannot repay and a liability.
Which means a life insurance loan isn't debt. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah.
Well, and some people think, like what Becca was saying, I don't want to have a loan. We use these words, and we have these front-loaded assumptions about what the words mean. And I think we often focus on negatives as opposed to focusing on positives. Do I want to not pay taxes? Do I want to not have debt? Do I want to not have whatever the thing is versus what is it that I actually want? Do I want to have the maximum amount of spendable money that I can possibly have throughout my lifetime that I can be a good steward of? That seems to me to be the most reasonable actual objective as opposed to these negative objectives, which I don't want to be in debt.
Mm-hmm.
We misdefine words, and like what you're talking about there, Lucas. It's like you can borrow, but you're if you're always borrowing, you're just accessing capital at a cost. You can access your capital at a cost. You can access somebody else's capital at a cost. But if you know how to access and deploy capital effectively, all you're doing is just strategically making choices to do so. You can do it from a pool that you own and control. You can do it from the bank, right? But if you're doing it on your terms, now you're the one who's being a good steward of the knowledge, the wisdom, the skill, the opportunity that you have, as opposed to doing it on somebody else's terms.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to go outsource the profits that are flowing through my life to the banks and go build their dreams. I want to build my dreams. I'm going to be fuel on the fire of dreams I believe in. I don't believe in the dreams of the American banking system, but yet everybody in America is building the American banking system for them.
Unknowingly.
Yeah. And many other things besides the banking system. Right. And
Yeah.
and doing it willingly. Like don't even realize that there's a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm done now. I'm not going to
That's
say anything else.
that's awesome. And we love this. Okay, so you want to go next?
Sure.
Okay, so Lucas, CEO of the Money Advantage, what is the number one
So,
thing that you would say?
Principles first, then strategies. And so with that, the the most basic principle that comes to mind is, I can't remember the name of the book, but it's like something like start thy purse to fattening.
Set thy purse to fattening.
thy-
It's from Richest Man in Babylon.
Yeah. So basically, just setting aside of all income, you always basically pay yourself first. You set the money aside, and so that is effectively the first step of creating your own bank. Is you have to be disciplined. You have to be disciplined to set money aside, and so yeah. So principles first, and thinking long range, and not being thinking that you have to just invest everything and everything has to happen super fast, but thinking much longer than today.
Which I think along those lines, just in terms of saving, usually we don't celebrate that in our culture. Usually we don't celebrate how much we have in savings. We usually celebrate the boat we bought, the expensive purse that we bought. I don't know, the thing that we can show somebody like, hey, look how wealthy I am because I was able to afford this thing that I probably put on credit card anyways, right? But that's we end up positioning these things as the value, the indicator of our worth somehow. But what you're saying is if we personally put a value on saving. And if we celebrate that saving, even with our kids, like, hey, look how much money you have in savings, rather than, oh, look at all the amazing things that you spent money on. And if you're able to build up capital, then you have the cash to be able to deploy in assets that are going to produce cash flow and all the great things that you want to be able to do to move yourself forward financially.
I'll also let you do it with peace, right? That, oh, okay, if everything's invested, now you have no moves. But when you invest in, and when you have a pool of capital, now you can invest intentionally. And so it's not about not investing. It's not about savings or investing, but it's just about start first with the savings. Then once you have some reserves, now you know that going forward, if something happens, you're not immediately in trouble. And then you can invest intentionally. And as you grow a pool of capital, you can invest, you can accelerate that. So it's a little bit slower start, but it's more peaceful. It's less risky, and it's more likely to be successful. It's a much higher chance of success in the long run.
Which actually is another point that you're saying without saying, that I think all of the things that are sustainable, have a good, strong foundation. They're not flash in the pan things. They're not overnight successes. They're not magic bullets, silver bullets, all the things that we can in our culture tend to gravitate towards and see as the shiny, flashy object that gets our attention. Instead, if you build the strong foundation, the principles, the beginning point really strong, then you're in a position where you can have long-term success. All right. So Bruce, we do want to wrap up on time. So we got 13 minutes left and I only need about 2 at the end. So you can take whatever time you need to just share kind of your big thoughts and your big insights from this time that we've been building together for 8 years.
Yeah, so there's many things that always come to mind, but it's unbelievable how if you just go back to Nelson's book, you can find the answers to most of your questions. And the man was unbelievably had an unbelievable knowledge that he could then turn into wisdom for other people. And it's probably because of his never ending thirst for knowledge and the truth and his relationship with God. You know, I'm just going to read this because why should I paraphrase it when I can just read it from Nelson? This book is not about investments of any kind. It is about how one finances the things in life, which certainly include investments. So Nelson wasn't against investments. It's not about rates of return. As time go by, and I say this to clients all the time, as times go by, interest rates are up, interest rates are down. But the process of banking goes on no matter what is happening. And, you know, we all said that kind of today in different ways. But the fact of the matter is, Nelson just kind of encapsulated it in one paragraph. And so if you buy the book and you keep saying to yourself, I really don't understand why I'm doing this, read the book again. Because I read it over and over and over. Matter of fact, our mastermind study on Tuesday mornings, we are now going over the book again. And I've gone over the book over and over and over again. I think it really comes down to a couple things in society that have pushed us in a general direction. Because when Jeff and I were growing up, we can say this because we're older. When we were growing up, there was a total different thought process on what you did with money. You actually saved it first. You saved it first, and you championed the idea of savings. And frankly, one of the places people saved was in whole life insurance contracts. And a lot of people didn't even know why they were doing it. But then as we got along into the stock market, we've had Ted Beno on our podcast, one of our early podcasts, the 401k, 1979. We got this idea of retirement. And Nelson used to always said, just look up the idea of retirement in a dictionary. And it was the one of the definitions is to remove from service. Why would any of us want to be removed from service? But yet that is the message we get over and over and over again. So really rethinking your thinking is what Lucas said is one of the most important things. Behavior is much more important. We haven't talked about this, so I want to make sure we get this before the end. Behavior is much more important than design of the policy. And yet, what do we try to do on social media? People try it all the time. Oh, come to me. I will show you why excuse me. I will show you why my design is better than all the other people you're talking to. And it's actually getting really prevalent right now. There's a couple of people on social media that are really bashing other people. And you should ask them, why do they feel that? You should ask yourself, why do you think they feel the need to bash other people? And why are they giving that message to you that the design, I figured it out? That's the arrival syndrome. I figured it all out. Look, my design's perfect. So I've kind of taken this full circle, but I want to finish with this. We've kind of talked about this a little bit. I'm not talking about the infinite banking concept. I'm talking about one of the basic things in your life is just to simply figure out what money's flowing into your control, what money's flowing out of your control, and then just simply have strategies to get more of that money flowing into your control. Whether it's changing your habits, whether it's placing money in a place where you get in uninterrupted compounding, or the simple process of doing this is actually going to enlighten you on your behavior. And the behavior, because it is the most important thing, I would say to people, stop trying to find the perfect situation until you look inside yourself and realize you have to change your habits. Because if you're not going to change your habits, this is my biggest fear all the time. People say, I tried this for a year and it doesn't work. Because I don't have any money capital. I don't have any way to pay my premium. So see, I told you this wasn't going to work. Well, that's because you didn't change anything you did to actually improve your life.
Bruce is preaching. I love it.
You didn't change how you think,
You're right.
and then you didn't change how you behave.
Which, when I look at that, Bruce, I'm just gonna capitalize on what you just said. I think the biggest challenge is trying to do things the old way with an old mindset, which the old mindset is get a better rate of return, right? Or I have to save versus invest. I have to find the one thing to do with my money, and I have to do that one thing. I have to have the best structure of this external thing outside of me. But Bruce, what you're saying is behavior is inside. Really, you are the banker. You are the person making financial decisions. You are the linchpin. You are the hinge. You are the catalyst of your financial success. And a product can help you do what you're doing better, but it can't replace you. You are the financial tool. You are the banker. And so as Lucas was talking earlier, we've got Joe DeFazio jumping in to the chat here. So a lot of great comments, Ebenezer and Rob Brayton. And so Joe jumped in. He said, not save or invest, save before investing. And then he said the before asset, which is valuable because I think a lot of times people do think I can channel money in this direction or this direction. I can save or I can invest. I have $2. I can put that $2 in savings, or I can put them in investing. And then the question is, okay, where am I going to save? Where am I going to invest? Really, the question is, how am I going to store this capital? How am I going to stay in control? And if I'm using a before asset, the life insurance tool, I'm storing capital, I'm building up this reservoir of cash value. Now, when I have that cash value, I can use it to deploy in a lot of different areas and pull that money back into the life insurance policy and have that cash value continuing to grow. So thank you for jumping in, Joe. I know you weren't able to be on the show, but you were kind of behind the scenes on the show. So that was super awesome. I'm just going to share in the last couple minutes that we have. I think my biggest learning was that it's really not just about the money. It's really not just about the financial tool only. As we were in the financial space, we had all the life insurance, we had the estate plan, and then life happened. Many of you on the show know the story. Many of you listening probably know the story. So we had Olivia. After her birth, I almost died. Very scary situation. But what happened was we realized that the life insurance alone, having a cash value that we're growing, premium that we're putting in, and a death benefit, you would think, oh, that's me getting money into my kids' generation. It's going to take care of them if anything happens to me. Well, really, what the realization that we had after that moment was, okay, first of all, it's not an if something happens to me, it's a when. Hopefully that win is going to be, I will be 120 years old. My children will be, well, Lucas will be, He's 6 years older than me, so I guess he would already have passed on. If he lived to 120, he'd be at 126 at that point. Kids would be in their 90s. We've had a lot of time to build up the policies, train our kids, teach them how to start their own policies, build up this long-term family banking system. Probably our kids' kids would have policies already, and we might even have grandkids, great-grandkids, or great-great-grandkids at that point. And that when would be much later on, but still we want to have that death benefit be able to pay so into the next generation, so that the next generation has more capital to be able to start their financial engines with, so that they can continue building and have more capital available to family members who will use it well. Now, here was the second realization. Financially providing for our kids through life insurance would not guarantee that they would know how to use it or that they'd use it well. We wanted a mechanism to help them make sure that they were going to make wise decisions to preserve that money, not just to spend it, or to use it for good things, to develop their skills, their ability, their networking capability, their training, so that they can improve their aptitudes and be more successful in business and whatever God's called them to do with their lives. And we wanted them to make sure that they're using capital to build up the true asset, which is themselves, which is, Bruce, what you were saying about it's internal. You are the true asset. You are the true banker. You are the system. We needed to be able to teach our kids that. So there needed to be a method for us to communicate the things that were even more important than just the money, so that they would use the money well, which really the realization that we had was that stewardship of the financial resources is something that you have to pass on from yourself. The training, the knowledge, the learning that you have that's allowing you to begin starting these policies and becoming your own banker needs to be something you communicate to your kids so they can carry this on. Because if you do, not only will you just get a death benefit into generation 2, end of story, but that additional capital, Bruce, I love your word of leveraged up death benefit, which means I put in this amount of premium, the death benefit for that is here. If generation 2 uses this amount of premium or this death benefit to fund premium on their generation, here, the leveraged up death benefit is going to be here in generation 3. If generation 3 uses this amount of premium to fund new life insurance policies, they will pay out into generation 4 even more. And what happens is you have this tool for perpetual growing, expanding wealth in each generation. But a tool, a product will never create that opportunity. The only thing that creates that opportunity is your level of stewardship and your willingness to communicate that stewardship so your kids can make decisions that will help that to continue to grow after you're no longer in charge. So that's been my biggest learning through this whole process. And I think my journey into infinite banking was a lot different than probably most of you guys, because Lucas is the researcher. He's the fact finder in our team. I'm the quick start. I'm like, look, okay, it's a place to store capital. We're going to have a death benefit. We can access capital. I'm good. Let's just go. Like, I don't really need to understand all the inner workings. But through the process of being able to communicate it to other people, I have had to understand the inner workings, and I've had to learn about what that means. And really, when it became a conviction level for me was when I almost died. And I realized the power, not just to improve my financial life, because that's a great thing, but the power that I have to be able to do the best thing for the next generation. That's when my conviction went through the roof with infinite banking. So,
And the responsibility.
oh yeah, which it is a responsibility. If we know the truth, but we don't communicate that truth, then we leave our kids and we leave the next generation to go figure it out all over again for themselves. And that's doing a huge disservice. All right. We're going to wrap up here. Joe's in the chat again. The character you play determines your perspective, your thinking, which determines your habits. Oh yeah, Joe, actually, so I was going to say something about that. So your actions, the only way you can make good actions is by your belief system. So your thinking, the way you believe, if you believe that you should be in financial control and that creating long-term wealth in your family is a good thing, you're going to make decisions that are congruent with that, that are helpful. And Joe is in here again. Do you just manage your capital or do you own your capital? Oh, so good. Okay, we're going to wrap up here. If you want to join this movement and be able to really become your own banker, you want to be in a position of making the ideal financial choices for yourself so that you can optimize your financial life, we invite you into a conversation. Go on over to themoneyadvantage.com and you can click on book a call or calendar, whatever it says on the homepage. It's a really easy button to be able to access our calendar, start a conversation with our team, and be able to be in a position of taking that one next step to really understand your financial life so you can do the most during your lifetime and for generations to come after you. So team, thank you for being here today. Joe, thanks for being here behind the scenes. And Jeff, thanks for being willing to jump on a podcast. Lucas, thank you for being here today. Bruce, thank you for 8 years of awesomeness. And if anyone doesn't know about Bruce's awesomeness, please go back and listen to all the episodes and you'll be absolutely convinced of his awesomeness. Becca, thank you for just your amazing communication, simplifying things, and just being an amazing communicator. Awesome. You guys go be awesome today, prosper, and in closing, please remember success leaves clues. So model the successful few, not the crowd, and build a life and business you love. We'll see you next time.